Welcome to How to Speedrun, a video series where I teach you everything you need to know about a speedrun and then show you how to practice it. This could be from knowing exactly where to blink in Dishonored, or how to clip out of bounds in Portal, or knowing the best way to practice Celeste's precise and fluid movement. But before we get to any of that, who am I? Well, my name is Garrett, and I used to play Overwatch a lot. When I started, I was dog shit poo poo doo doo at FPS games, but after learning and improving, I made it all the way from way down here to a career peak of 4307. That's top 1%, by the way. In doing this, I helped coach not only myself, but also other individuals and teams to get from where they were to a higher skill level. And now, here I am, trying to teach you how to go from knowing nothing about a speedrun to becoming a world record contender. And while Overwatch may not be the same as speedrunning, they do share the same 3 key fundamentals that are mirrored across every skill in life. These 3 fundamentals are knowledge, mechanics, and fluidity. Knowledge is knowing the most optimal decision for whatever scenario you're in. So, in painting, for example, it would be knowing the proper techniques or what brush to use. It would be knowing the difference between some special stupid retard canvas or the canvas your mom has. It's pretty much just knowing the process that turns this blob of colors into a tree. Mechanics are pretty simple. It's just your ability to take the knowledge in your brain and channel it through your body and allow it to manifest through you in the form of action. Now, if you didn't get any of that, it's basically if your brain tells you to throw the curveball, your arm can throw the curveball. Fluidity is all about how smoothly you carry out a skill. If you have the correct knowledge and can execute on that knowledge fairly well, you may still see that the experts are still light years ahead of you. This is because of fluidity. The only way to be more fluid at something is to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again until your brain doesn't even have to think about what you're doing anymore. Any professional who practices with such vigor will naturally have a high level of polish because their knowledge and mechanics have become subconscious. When everything you do is subconscious, that then opens a gateway for your brain to be able to think about a bunch of little small things and small ways to improve that you would otherwise be completely oblivious to. When you speedrun a game for so long, your timing, inputs, and awareness become so advanced that everything just comes out smoother. Now, this may seem like the most important factor, and you may be thinking, well, why do I even bother worrying about the others when I could just do my skill over and over again until I'm 100% fluid? Rawr! Then you'll just be the best! But in reality, fluidity is only the most important factor when it comes to breaking the top 1% barrier of whatever you're trying to do. It's still part of becoming a master at a speedrun, but don't get stuck in thinking that you'll become the ultimate fluid before you do anything else. Getting from the bottom 10% to the top 1% will require practicing your knowledge and mechanics way more than you aiming for peak fluidity. Now, with all that intro stuff out of the way, let's pick a game to speedrun. For this episode, we'll be playing, drumroll please, HuniePop! Get laid easy. The speedrun we're going to be looking at for this video is HuniePop's most popular category, Get Laid % on easy mode. The objective of this run is to have sex with one girl as quickly as you can, and I guess I should probably explain HuniePop a bit for those of you who aren't familiar. Well, most people would tell you that HuniePop is a dating simulator game where the player tries to seduce anime ladies by solving Candy Crush-esque puzzles. And while they're not necessarily wrong, anyone who describes the game like this to you has done it a huge disservice. In reality, HuniePop is a 3-match puzzle game that has some dating simulator elements in the background. In HuniePop, you go around meeting, talking to, and dating an eclectic cast of girls. Each of the girls have their own likes and dislikes, as well as traits and quirks that make them unique, and you can date all of them. This may sound like a standard dating simulator, but each date you go on takes you here, the date grid. Most of your time in HuniePop will be spent here, analyzing the date grid, trying to find the best next move. Each new date that you win means the next date you play is harder. The game also comes with an upgrade system, a variety of different tokens that all have different effects, date gifts, and a new way to maneuver tokens that the 3-match puzzle game genre has never seen before. All of these elements combined add up to a complex game where you often have to think several moves ahead. But the most important thing that you need to know about HuniePop is that the game is fun. It's addictingly fun. You can't possibly understand how fun this game is without playing it. This is true so much to the point that I've given it a name. The HuniePop effect. Just about every time I've introduced this game to someone, I'm always met with the same response. And some of you might be thinking this as well. Oh, you play an anime titty game? How could you? Are you still a horny 14-year-old? What even is the game? But then, those same people who try the game will end up playing it for hours on end into the night their first time, neglecting basic human necessities like food or sleep. You'll forget about everything around you and just keep saying to yourself, I could do one more date, until you realize it's 4 in the morning. If you still don't believe me, and if you aren't willing to play the game yourself, and won't change your mind, then you've no need for this video. But I mean, I'll take the free watch time, so I wouldn't mind if you just left it on in the background. Now, everyone here still watching this video should understand what makes HuniePop fun and why I and many others love it. But how does any of this relate to speedrunning? Well, my point here in explaining how the game works and why it's fun, besides just giving you context for the rest of the video, is to show you how strange speedrunning this type of game might be. It's not really a game where you move around at the perfect time, slipping and sliding through levels. It's just a clicker Candy Crush anime dating simulator. It shouldn't be a speed game, right? But then why have I and over 100 other troglodytes chosen to speedrun it? Well, that's because, just like the game, no matter how wrong it may look, HuniePop is fun. When you look at HuniePop, it seems like just a porn game where you just jerk off while dating anime women. Then, when you look at HuniePop's speedrun, it appears like a terrible speed game built solely on RNG. But the first time I started speedrunning HuniePop, I stayed up all night trying to lower my time. At this point, I already had over 200 hours clocked into the game. But because of this new facet of HuniePop, the HuniePop effect had me in its clutches once again. It simply doesn't matter how wrong or backwards the game or the speedrun appear, because this game is fun. And that's all that matters. And now that you have certainly been swayed by the silver-tongued Garrett, and you all at home want to speedrun HuniePop, let me go ahead and repeat what I said from the beginning of the video. We're going to be playing HuniePop's most popular category, Get Laid Easy. The objective of this run is to sleep with one girl as quickly as possible. To do this, we're going to need to go on 3 dates with that girl, as fast as we can, then one last night date, as fast as we can, to trigger the sex event. The sex event will take us to one final minigame in the bedroom, and when we finish this, the run will be over. Now that you know what run we are doing, and why you should consider running it, let's finally get into the specifics of how this is done. I'm going to start with the mechanics section because it's much simpler than anything else. Since HuniePop is a clicker game where you don't physically move your character around, there aren't really many tactical inputs that you need to do. Really, there are only 2 mechanical skills you need to worry about in HuniePop Speedrun at all. These 2 skills are mouse control and reaction time. If you don't intend to speedrun the game yourself and don't want to hear me explain this part, feel free to skip right to the knowledge section. 3, 2, 1. Alright, let's begin. Mouse control is your ability to move the mouse from wherever it is to wherever you want it to go. In HuniePop, that would mean it's your ability to move a piece from one part of the board to another part of the board. The quicker you can move a piece, the quicker you can do the next move, and thus the quicker you can finish the date. If you move your mouse too quickly and miss, then you'll lose time. If you move your mouse too slow, then you'll lose time. You'll need to have good control over your mouse to match the moves on board as quickly as your brain can recognize them. And part of having good control of your mouse is being comfortable with the speed of your mouse. And before training your mouse control, you should pick a good speed for it. To check or change your pointer speed, go to the mouse settings on your PC, then click Additional Options, and then click Pointer Options. Here, you'll see the speed of your mouse. Exact measurements aren't really important here, as mouse control is more about comfort than having a perfect sensitivity. However, it is highly recommended that you don't use a pointer speed too far on one of the extremes. I suggest that you have nothing below the 3rd dial, as it's far too slow, and nothing above the 6th, as it's far too fast. As long as you're in between the 3rd and 6th dial, you should be good. If you are adjusting from outside this range, then you should move it to the 4th dial, and after a day of using that speed, make a note of whether you're slightly over-aiming or slightly under-aiming. If you're over-aiming, you could lower the slider to 3, and if you're under-aiming, you can move the slider to 5. The second skill we have to look at is reaction time, and reaction time affects how quickly you can see all the information on the board. The faster you can see everything, the faster your brain can find a good move. Reaction time will also affect the time in between seeing a move and your hand making that move. A big part of speedrunning is cutting down on pockets of wasted time. And when you have a good reaction time, you'll have a lot less of these empty pockets where you're not making any moves. If you want to find out what your reaction time is, you can go to humanbenchmark.com and take the reaction time test. If your reaction time is 220 ms or above, you should consider trying to improve it. However, if your reaction time is between 190 and 220, you're probably okay, but it wouldn't hurt to train. But anything below 190 ms, you're really solid. Keep in mind that I'm picking these numbers solely based on my own experience, since I started with a reaction time of 250 ms and got it down to 215. When I did, that helped me feel way better. Now you're asking, well, how do I improve them? My reaction time's doo-doo and my mouse control sucks. Well, I'm about to tell you, so shut up. Okay, so mouse control and reaction time can both be improved using an aim trainer. Now I'd recommend Kovacs 2.0, but if you don't want to fork over the $10, AimLab is free. In the aim trainer that you choose, try and find a sensitivity that feels pretty close to whatever your sensitivity is on your desktop. Once you do that, you can begin training. In Kovacs, 1 wall 6 targets and close long strafes invincible are great for mouse control training, and then 1 wall 1 target is great for reaction time. If you're going to use AimLab, use Sphere Track and Grid Shot to improve mouse control, and Reflex Shot to improve your reaction time. You should aim to train for around 10 to 15 minutes on all the modes that you pick each day you're going to speedrun. After a bit of time, you should see a nice increase in both mouse control and reaction time. Before moving on to the knowledge section of the run, I want to briefly talk about mashing. In HuniePop, you can skip through the girl's dialogue by spamming mouse 1. The faster you can spam mouse 1, the faster you go through the dialogue, meaning you're gonna have a faster time. Now, I've had a few people ask me how I mash so quickly, and I've even seen a few other runners complain about needing to become a good masher if they want to get a faster time. This is just silly. I did not include it as one of the main mechanical things you need to train or get good at for this run, because it's barely a mechanic at all. Here, come closer. Closer? I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. We don't just spam our mouse button the whole time. Oh my god! Ugh. I think if we did have to do that, the community would have far fewer runners and would be a far worse speed game. Luckily though, we have a couple ways to make mashing easier and faster. These are AutoHotKey and JoyKey. I personally use AutoHotKey, and this allows me to rebind my mouse 1 button to my W, A, S, and D keys. Then I can spam like this. With these keys rebound, spamming like I just showed you, I'm getting through dialogue at a much quicker rate than you could normally. The script that I use for AutoHotKey is in the description below and on the screen right now, if you want to use it yourself. While that is what I use, I know a lot of other runners use a controller to mash instead. See, what they do is they rebind all the analog stick directions to mouse 1 through a program called JoyKey. Then, they can spin the stick in a circle, and this will allow them to mash through the dialogue in the game much easier than spamming the mouse button manually. There's no objectively better option between using the keyboard to spam through AutoHotKey or using a controller to spam through JoyKey. It's just complete personal preference. Do whatever is easier or more comfortable for you. Now that we've got all the engines put together and the oil put in the machine, we can finally move past all the technical mechanics and move on to the interesting stuff. The time has finally come for us to talk about the real skill involved in HuniePop's speedrun. The knowledge. I'm going to go through and explain all the information and topics that you should know to get your dick wet as fast as possible. I'll give you the information in order from the most basic stuff to the most complex. The timestamps for each topic I cover will be in the description below in case you need to come back later just to refresh yourself on what I had to say. If you're just here for entertainment and not personally interested in speedrunning HuniePop yourself, I hope you can still enjoy how I explain the intricacies of the run. HuniePop's basics. To speedrun HuniePop, you're gonna need to understand what the game is and how to play it. At this point, you might understand the basic idea of the game thanks to what I explained earlier or just from hearsay from other people, but you're gonna need a more hands-on experience to truly be ready for the speedrun. The absolute best way to learn HuniePop's basics is to play the game yourself. This will give you a first-hand experience which will help immensely when learning the rest of the speedrun. Now for all of you at home who aren't gonna play the game normally, or are just here for entertainment purposes, I'll still walk you through the game and explain how all of its basic functions work. If you already know all this information and don't want to hear me explain it, here's a timestamp to skip to the next part of the video. Time to start the walkthrough! When you first start a HuniePop file, you're in a bar. When an unnamed girl approaches you and starts talking to you. You get 3 dialogue options to respond to her, and this trend will stay consistent throughout the entire game. In this case, and several others in the game, your choices don't matter. This girl, Q, will just say different things in response to what you pick while eventually leading you to the same endpoint each time. Kinda like a Telltale game. After talking to her for a bit, she says goodnight and later wakes you up in your bedroom, now looking completely different. You again have dialogue options that will eventually lead you to find out Q is a love fairy and is here to help you pick up some broads. She finds out you've never even been on a date before and then leads you to the tutorial date. Here at the intro date, Q teaches you how the date grid works and what all the pieces do. I'll just let her explain this part.
Alright, I'll try to make this quick. This is the date grid. These little pieces are called tokens. You earn affection by matching 3 or more of the circular tokens horizontally or vertically. For a successful date, you have to fill the affection meter before you run out of moves. Go ahead, give it a shot. Match those orange ones with the crescent shape in the middle of the grid. See? Easy! Each of the 4 types of affection tokens represents a particular trait. The orange ones represent romance, blue is talent, green is flirtation, and red is sexuality. Pay attention to which trait your date prefers. It'll go a long way. Of course, matching 4 or 5 tokens will get you even more affection. I'll show you. Match those 4 sexuality tokens in the bottom right of the grid, the red ones. Sweet. Okay, what's next? Oh right, let me cover the other token types real quick. The pink hearts are passion tokens. Matching those will raise your date's passion level. The higher her passion level is, the more affection you'll earn. The gold bells are joy tokens. You'll get an extra move by matching those. Very useful. The broken heart tokens are bad news. Seriously, avoid matching those as best you can. Finally, the teardrops are sentiment tokens. Matching those gives you, well, sentiment. You need sentiment in order to use date gifts. And seeing as how you don't have any date gifts, I'm guessing I need to explain that too. Here, I'll hook you up with one of mine. It's on the house. Like I said, you'll need sentiment to use it. So go ahead and match those 3 sentiment tokens in the leftmost column, the teardrops. Okay, now go ahead and give that date gift to me. Cool, huh? There are like a ton of different date gifts that you can get too. They each have a unique effect on the date and can be extremely useful in combination. Oh, and thanks to a little fairy magic, you'll never actually lose them. So you can use them on your next date too. Is that cool or what? Alright, I've gone on long enough. I'll let you finish up the date so you can get the hang of it. Oh, and don't worry, I won't let you fail this one. I'm not that mean.
Great, now you know how the date grid works, how to win dates, all the token types, and the basics of date gifts. Kyu lets you play out the rest of this date without being able to fail, for practice purposes, and then we return to our bedroom. Back at our bedroom, Kyu introduces us to the Honeybee, which is our ultimate multi-tool that will serve as the game's menu system. Within this menu system, we find all the information we know about the girls we know. It allows us to travel to different girls. It allows us to manage our inventory, or read messages, or buy gifts, upgrade traits, and it will allow us to manage our settings. Now we get to finally leave the tutorial area and start dating. You get to pick between starting off at a fitness club, a university campus, a shopping mall, the Dawnwood Park, or the Nutmeg Cafe. All of these options lead you to a different starting girl, which affects the specific order that you can meet and interact with the girls. On a normal run, it's completely personal preference. Once you've made your choice, you'll arrive there in the middle of a conversation between two different girls. This is how all of the first time interactions go. You see the girl you're about to meet talking to another girl that you can go meet after this. After the conversation ends, Kyu will come in and comment on the girl, usually telling you how much she wants to fuck them. And I guess sometimes she'll tell you a bit more about them and give you some tips on how to seduce them. Since, that is her job as our love fairy. Then we get to talk to the girl. But just like the first interactions with Kyu, the dialogue options here don't actually matter at all. You'll always get the girl's number and always have the option of interacting with her further, including dating her. Once you're with a girl, you can interact with them in a few different ways. You can talk to them, which involves them asking you a question, or you asking them a question. You can buy gifts from the store section in the Honeybee that you can then give to the girls, or you can date them. Talking to a girl will give you honey, but it will drain the girl's food meter. When a girl's food meter is at 0, you can no longer interact with them. No dates, no gifts, no talk. But you can purchase food from the store section in the Honeybee to replenish that girl's food meter. When you give a girl gifts that she likes, indicated by the stars in the store section, this will give you honey just like when you talk to her. When you give a girl a gift that she loves, indicated by the heart in the store section, you get honey and a new date gift. I'm sure you're wondering what honey does. And honey allows you to upgrade traits, which makes dates easier. And date gifts give you a bonus during dates, which make dates easier. When you win a date, you fill up one of the hearts on the heart meter below the girl. Each heart that fills in grants you a new text message from that girl and a step closer to sleeping with them. When the hearts are at 4, the next night date you go on with that girl means you get to slam her. Speaking of night dates, the game takes place on a clock of morning, afternoon, evening, and night. These times affect when certain girls will be available for you to interact with, and will affect when you can sleep with a girl. Once you're done interacting with your first girl, you can go around meeting each of the 8 main girls, getting a chance to interact and date all of them. The game carries on like this for a while, a cycle of interacting with one girl, upgrading skills if you can, equipping the right date gifts, dating them, and moving on to the next girl. This cycle is simple but addicting. Each time you have sex with one of these girls, you get their panties. And you have sex with everyone, including the secret characters. Then, you take all the panties you've collected and give them to Kyu. The game will enter Alpha Mode. Alpha Mode is where the game gets crazy. It goes on forever, making the dates infinitely harder and harder until you get to Alpha Mode date 100, and then that's the end of it. You beat HuniePop, that's it, you won! Hopefully now, you understand the simple progression through the game and a basic understanding of how its mechanics work. If you don't, listen to what I said all over again. Or, you know what? Even better, play the game. If you do understand everything, then now we get to actually talk about the speedrun of the game. The speedrun route and rules. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that the specific category we'll be looking at for HuniePop speedrun is called Get Laid Easy. And the official rules of this category are as follows. Timer begins when you click start as male/female and ends when you finish the bedroom minigame. Your difficulty must be set to easy as soon as possible. You are allowed to map your mouse button to other keys or controllers. However, using macros and turbo functions is strictly forbidden. Runs near the top require video evidence. So those nifty rules that we just read tell us what we have to do for the run. But now it's our job as runners to learn the fastest way to do it. And we've established a pretty good method for going about it. The route. We start the game like any other. Begin a new save file and start talking to Kyu. The choices here don't matter, so we just want to click through them as fast as we can. Once we get through enough text, we'll get to the enter date. And initially, your impression might be to follow Kyu's instructions like normal. I mean, what else can you really do, right? But that's not the case here. Right away, we're going to apply a pretty interesting tactic that HuniePop has. This very useful tactic stems from the fact that you can move pieces like a rook in chess. And when you do this, the other pieces will slide to the side. When a match is one space away from being collected, you don't need to move that piece directly. You can move another piece in the same row or column, like so, to push the original piece into place. And we're going to use this tactic right away in the speedrun. Instead of simply matching these 3 romance tokens, like this, we're going to take this broken heart and move it over there. You'll see what this does a little later on, and it's incredible. For now though, you can match through the rest of Kyu's text here and do the other moves just like she tells you to. Once you get to the sentiment match, Kyu will give you the stuffed bear, which is the only date gift we get in the run. To quickly cover it, what the stuffed bear does is it turns all the broken hearts on board to passion tokens. So when we use that stuffed bear, it's going to turn these broken hearts right here into passion tokens. And when it does, you'll see that we've set up a nice 5 of passion match to start us off. And this is all thanks to that broken heart move that we made earlier. And the stuffed bear, of course. But it doesn't stop there. Right after we match this 5 of hearts, a 5 of green falls right down from the sky. How generous! That's what one broken heart move gets us. Now, just go ahead and match that 5 of green and solve the rest of the date as quickly as you can. Quick tip. Sometimes a 6th green token can appear from the top of the grid. Watch out for this little bugger, and if there's any move you can do before matching the 5 of green that might expose the 6 of green, go for it. It makes the intro date much faster. With the intro date finished, Kyu will take us back to the bedroom and give us the honeybee. Open the honeybee as soon as you can and switch the difficulty to easy. Close the honeybee and mash through Kyu's text until she gives you a dialogue option. Here, you have to click, hell yeah, let's do this shit. Or she'll ask you the same question over and over again until you pick that one. Quick tip. The hell yeah option is the shortest one of the 3 by far. Instead of trying to decipher the correct choice by reading each of the sentences, it might be faster to make your choice based on sentence length. Next, Kyu will ask you where you want to start, and we want to choose the university campus. The girl we are trying to sprinkle our sweet strawberry seed onto is Aiko, who is normally found at the Dawnwood Park. But we need to make a pit stop before heading over to Aiko's. You see, Aiko's favorite token type is the red sexuality tokens, so we're going to want to upgrade that as soon as we can. Upgrading the red tokens will require 1500 honey, and the girl found at the university campus, Tiffany, will help us accomplish that goal. Once we arrive at Tiffany's meeting, we will need to master a lot of text, but eventually, the game will let you interact with her. As soon as you can, open up the store section of the honeybee and look for 2 gifts that both cost 500 money. A gift that costs 500 money, when given to a girl, will give us 500 honey. And with the 1000 money we received from completing the intro date, the optimal buying strategy for getting the honey we need to upgrade the sexuality tokens is to purchase 2 gifts that cost 500 each. If you're unable to spend all 1000 money on gifts for Tiffany, then there are other ways to make up for the missing honey. The 2 most common ways are to buy Aiko a gift, or to talk to both Tiffany and Aiko until you get the necessary 1500 honey. Make sure not to talk to Aiko too much though, because she still needs some food in order for you to ask her out on a date. Quick tip! When talking to girls, answering a question gives you more honey than if you ask one. So, if you purchased and gave Tiffany 2 500 money gifts, then you only need to answer 2 of Tiffany's questions to have exactly 1500 honey. But if you have to ask Tiffany even 1 question, you'll miss out and have to talk to her a 3rd time. Which isn't run crushing, but it's not 100% perfect. Quicker tip, if when you talk to Tiffany for the first time, you have to ask her a question, all hope is not lost. The second time you talk to Tiffany, she might ask you to regurgitate the information that you just learned about her. If you answer this question correctly, you get enough honey to upgrade your sexuality trait without needing to talk to her a 3rd time. After finishing up with Tiffany, however it goes, open up the honeybee and upgrade your sexuality trait. After that, head on over to Aiko so that you can complete your first date with her. I'll go into more depth on certain strategies for dates in a later section of the video, but for now, we're just worried about the route. Once you've sped through your date with Aiko, go back to Tiffany. Now you may be thinking, well, why would I go back and see Tiffany? And the reason is Tiffany gives us this special time travel device, which lets us skip days, meaning we can date Aiko quicker. I'm not certain if there's a name for this exploit, but I'm going to refer to it simply as time skipping. Really, we're just going to abuse the fact that the circumstances of your first interaction with a girl in HuniePop are completely predetermined. When you first meet a girl, she has to interact with a specific other girl, and this has to be done at a specific place, and this has to be done at a specific time. For example, Lola needs to be met in Nutmeg Cafe talking to Nikki at the evening. So let's say it's nighttime where you are. If you go to meet Lola, who has to be met in the evening, it'll skip all the time in between and immediately put you on the next day in the evening. We use this trick to time skip through days so we don't have to wait for the next available chance to date Aiko. Now, how specifically do we apply this? Well, the goal we're shown when we meet Aiko for the first time is Belly, and her initial meeting occurs in the afternoon. We meet with Tiffany first to tick the clock down to the evening. Now when we go meet Belly, the game has to skip a day to get us to the afternoon. Once we do the time skip, we're going to have to master Belly's text and then go back to Aiko. Now that it's the next day, she'll be ready to date again. Go on that date and rock it out as quickly as you can. Once the date has been sufficiently rocked, we're going to use the time skip trick again. This time visiting Belly beforehand, because Tiffany thinks sleeping the time away is better than skipping it outright. Silly Tiffany, sleeping is for losers. Visiting Belly will make it nighttime, and the girl that was talking to Belly earlier, Jessie, conveniently is met in the evening. So, when we go meet Jessie, the game will time skip us forward a whole day, mash through Jessie and Lola's conversation, and return to Aiko. Go on a date with Aiko, beat it as quickly as possible, and afterward, go meet Lola. This time, we don't need to visit an extra girl beforehand, since it was nighttime when we left Aiko, perfectly setting us up for a time skip through Lola's necessary meet time, which, like I said before, happens in the evening. Mash through Lola's dialogue, and return to Aiko once more as it's time for the final date. Start the date, beat it quickly, obviously, and you'll be moved to the bedroom. As soon as that bottom bar reaches 500, you can stop your timer and pray that you got the world record. To make this easier upon rewatching, here on the screen now is the exact order that you visit girls. You start with Tiffany, then you go to Aiko, then you go back to Tiffany, then to Belly, back to Aiko, then you go back to Belly, then you meet Jessie, then you go to Aiko, then you go to Lola, then you go back to Aiko, and you're done. Anytime you meet Aiko, remember, you date her. Now that you all are armed with the knowledge of the overall route at your fingertips, it's time for you to start learning the nitty-gritty details of speeding through the dates. Hello class, and welcome to HuniePop 101. Today, our lesson will be covering simple match recognition. In HuniePop Speedrun, you're going to need to make matches as quickly as you can. And one of the best ways to get you to start making moves faster is to make sure that you can notice moves faster. The idea being that the faster that you can notice moves, the faster that you can actually make them. If you want to start noticing moves faster, you're going to need an understanding of what the simple matches look like in HuniePop. So, let's jump right in and take a look at the pre-made matches that exist for 3 of a kinds, 4 of a kinds, and 5+ of a kinds. We'll start with the 3-match pre-made moves. And by pre-made, I'm referring to a set of tokens that are already put together, ready for you to match. There are 2 different types of 3-match pre-mades, and they both have horizontal and vertical forms. We'll start with the spaced pre-made. A spaced pre-made looks like this. We have 2 tokens near each other, separated by a space in the middle. If we were to put a token in the center of these 2 green tokens, that would be a match. Another example would be these 2 romance tokens down here. This being a horizontal version and this being the vertical version. If we were to put a romance token right here, it would connect them as 3 and make it a match. The close pre-made is the next one we're going to look at. This one looks similar as it has 2 tokens next to it, but instead of being separated by a space, they're right next to each other, like these 2 sexuality tokens. We can see here a horizontal one and a vertical one. This is a vertical one, this is a horizontal one as well. If we were to put a token here or here, like this, or we were to put one like this or this, then it would match it. It's very important for you to recognize the 3-match pre-made moves all over the board as quickly as you can, since they are going to be the majority of the moves that you make in HuniePop, especially if they're red, and you're doing a speedrun. Now, let's take a look at a 4-match pre-made. There's 2-ish 4-of-a-kinds that you can find in HuniePop. I'll address the ish in a second, but first, let's focus on the main one. The main 4-of-a-kind pre-made looks like this right here, with 2 tokens right next to each other, separated by a space, and then another token of the same kind. If we were to take this flirtation and drag it in here, that would connect all of them as a 4-of. Another way to look at the 4-match pre-made is it kind of looks like a close pre-made from the 3s and a spaced 3-match pre-made put together into one. Remember, while 4-of-a-kinds are much better than 3-of-a-kinds, if during the speedrun you have a 4-match pre-made that's red, but there's no real way to match it, you can just match it like a 3, just like normal. Lastly, let's take a look at the 3 different 5-of-a-kind pre-mades that exist. The first one is the simplest 5-of-a-kind. It's basically just 2 close pre-mades separated by a space in the middle. If we were to put another flirtation token into this spot right here, this would be a 5-of. This is also the ish that I was talking about in the 4-match pre-made section. If there's no way to make this a 5-of-a-kind, like there currently is on board, well, I'm sure we could do it something like this. Now we could, but if we couldn't do something like that, we could just drag the middle piece away 2 squares in either direction, and it would match as a 4-of. If, during a run, there's no way to make a 5-of-a-kind out of this pattern of sexualities, then it's perfectly fine just to match it as a 4-of. It'll still get you a long way in the date. The other 2 5-of-a-kind pre-mades are a little more unique in the way that they look. The first one is, it's a dick. Here's the shaft, here's the balls. If you were to drag this token right into here, you would connect it into one harmonious penis, netting you a 5-of-a-kind. This pattern is rare, difficult to set up, and difficult to match. But sometimes it does show up, like it just did. Make sure you're ready when it does. The very last pre-made to look at is also the way that we find matches above 5-of-a-kind. This weird pattern right here with these orange tokens, like 2 close pre-mades put together at a 90-degree angle, is the way that we find 5-of-a-kinds, 6-of-a-kinds, and 7-of-a-kinds. Besides the other 5-of-a-kinds, but this is the only way we'll ever find a 6 or a 7. Basically, we can put this romance token right here, which connects all 5 of these. But if, for example, there was a romance token here, you can see how that bottom romance token connected would make it a 6. Or if there was, even further, if there was a romance token here and another one right underneath it, and we were to put one where the sexuality token is, that might be hard to visualize, but hopefully you can, then that would be a 7-of. It just really depends on how many extra pieces are near the weird pattern. By the way, this is the 5-of-a-kind that we see in the intro date, both for the passion match and the flirtation match, so hopefully you recognize it. Well, that's it. Those are all the simple matches in HuniePop that you should be able to recognize on a dime. And now that you have a good understanding of what these basic matches look like, it's time for you to learn the optimal approaches to take when doing each date. Each date in HuniePop's run has its own strategies and optimal approaches to take when trying to complete them as fast as possible. This is one of the most important things to understand and improve on when you're trying to lower your time. Let's start at the very beginning with the intro date approach. When doing the intro date, the most important thing is trying to get the 6 of green over the 5 of green. Don't ever match that goddamn 5 of green without being absolutely sure that there's no way to get a 6th. If there's ever a match above the 5 of green, like this move, or like this move, always match it. It will sometimes reveal a green piece, allowing you to match it as a 6. Now, once you do match the greens, whether you get the 6 of, or you have to settle with a 5 of, you'll usually need a few more moves to exit the intro date. Just try and make some moves as quickly as you can, prioritizing Q's favorite, flirtation, and mainly staying away from talent tokens, which is her least favorite. Now, we can talk about date 1 and date 2's approach. One of the most important things for a successful date in HuniePop is your passion level. A higher passion level means that your matches give you more points. This is important in the speedrun as well. During dates 1 and 2, getting the passion level to just 1 will help you immensely. Since these dates are so short, passion level 1 and just a few 3 of reds will be enough to end it. To level up your passion, you need to match the heart tokens. passion level 1 can be achieved with 1 4-token match or 2 3-token matches. Look for these right away on dates 1 and 2 before you start matching any reds. Once you have a passion level and expended all of the basic sexuality matches on the board, look for some moves around or near stranded red tokens. Making moves around isolated red tokens could cause more red tokens to fall from the sky. When this happens, you can then try to set up the new red tokens you have with the red tokens that were already on the board before. To quickly summarize and make things easier for you, before a date 1 or a date 2, just say to yourself in your head, get a quick passion level, then match reds. That strategy should help you get through those dates much quicker. Now, if when you start a date, you only have 1 passion match on the board, go ahead and match it and try to get a second one as quickly as you can. There is one exception to this rule though. If there's ever a 5 of red on board, and there aren't any heart matches to make that wouldn't directly mess with your 5 of red, just match the 5 of red. Remember, the reason we're getting a passion level is so that our red matches count for more points, so that we can win the date. If you can match big red moves that win the date faster than getting a passion level, by all means, do that. Dates 3 and 4 are longer and harder than dates 1 and 2. So we're going to need to evolve our strategy a little bit. During these dates, you can't always get away with having none or only 1 passion level. Sometimes you can, but it's not really reliable. We don't want it. Meaning what we really want is passion level 2. The easiest way to get passion level 2 is by using the stuffed bear. The stuffed bear is a date gift that we got at the beginning of the run that allows us to turn all the broken hearts into regular hearts. The stuffed bear requires 6 sentiment to use, meaning that we need 2 3-sentiment matches or 1 4-sentiment match. If you get 6 sentiment, go ahead and use that bear right away and get all the passion matches that you can. Naturally, you aren't always going to start with enough sentiment matches to use the stuffed bear, but you might start with other things that could compensate. A 4 of passion, 3 of passions, or 1 sentiment match that might lead to another one. Any of these possibilities are good. Oh, and of course, if there's a 5 of red on board and nothing else, that's pretty good too. So with all that information subbed up into one, when starting day 3 or day 4, the game should give you one of 3 things. A quick stuffed bear through sentiment matches, a quick passion level followed by more passion matches throughout the date, or a lot of reds. And by a lot of reds, I mean a lot of them, like a 5 of or 2 4 ofs. A bunch of 3s just ain't gonna cut it without some nice passion to go with it. It is then your job when playing these dates to determine which of these 3 options the game has presented to you so that you can make the best first few moves. Once you make those first few moves, it's just about matching all the reds you can. Then matching moves around stranded reds so that you can eventually match those reds. You've heard that before. If you did get passion level 2 or passion level 1 with a ton of reds, you're setting yourself up to have a very good date. But sometimes you might have moves later in the dates that are a little more complex. Special moves that help take your date from being a good date to a great date. Welcome class to HuniePop 102. Today, we're going to be taking a look at advanced date grid manipulation. There's a lot of advanced theory and strategy that can be applied to HuniePop, but for the purposes of the speedrun, there's only 3 main things that we really need to focus on. These 3 concepts I call moving to match, setups, and unconventional patterns. We'll start with moving to match because it's quite possibly the most important, advanced tactic in HuniePop. Basically, when a match is 1 move away from being solved, like these sexualities here, I could just do this, or these talent tokens here, I could just do this, or these passion tokens here, you get the idea. There's a lot all over the board. Then you don't actually have to move that piece directly. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. I could instead drag a piece directly behind it, like this. In this case, it would be any one of these that I could drag forward up here to slide it into place. And that's exactly what you do. You can move another piece behind it to slide the original one into place, like this. This is helpful because it allows you to maneuver pieces into specific locations that they would not otherwise be allowed to go to. This tactic also serves as the building block for the second thing, setups. Setups as a concept are easy to understand. You want to make a match, but you can't yet. Instead, you'll need to make 1 or more preparatory moves that allow you to set up to make the original match that you wanted. For example, These romance tokens right here is one move away from becoming a 4 of. But there's no additional 4th romance token for us to put here, which means we need to find a way to get one of these into the correct column. So taking a look at the grid, let's just do this in any way we can. We can match this to make it fall down, and then we can match this to make it fall down again, and drag it over. In that case, we needed 2 preparatory moves to set it up. Another quick example to show you would be using moving to match to move this joy token over here, then allowing us to match it like this. Setups are also a big part of the final thing that we need to focus on for advanced state grid manipulation: unconventional patterns. You see, up to this point, we've really only looked at the simple, pre-made matches that the game has to offer us. But not every match in the game is this simple. Sometimes, matches come in a more distorted form. For example, these talents right here could become a 5 of. All we would have to do would move this token here. If this was here, then that's a 5 of. Another example would be moving this romance token here. Then we would have a 4 of. When you see pieces around the same area, try and put together in your head what they could become. It's not just about understanding what the pieces are on the board, you need to also understand their potential as well. Now, there's a million different ways that matches could appear on the grid to become 4 or 5 or 6 of a kinds. So I can't just say, oh, here's the complete list of all the unconventional patterns that exist. That's impossible. But what I can do is tell you to expand your mind and try to be a little more open about what kind of matches could exist. Like what I quickly showed you just a moment ago. For example, also, this right here could set us up for a 4 of. Like that. That wasn't a 4 match pre-made, we had to think outside the box to put that together. Another example would be if we could eventually move this here. If we could do that, then that would be a 5 or a 4 of talent. I'm not saying that you could do that, the answer might be no, but the answer could also be yes. You just need to start thinking about the possibilities so that you can take advantage of when there actually is a way to do it. All of these 3 concepts, when put together, can help you create some very effective moves during dates. But you aren't always going to have the time during dates to think about the correct move the whole time. I mean, it's a speedrun after all, you need to move fast. You can't just sit there and analyze the position and find all the different ways to set something up. In the heat of the moment, you need to just make a move. It doesn't matter if it's the right move, just make one, make any move. Then, later, when reviewing your runs, or doing a practice date in a controlled environment when you're not timing yourself, that's when you can try and find the right moves, using the tactics I just showed you, moving to match, setups, and unconventional patterns. With enough practice and review, your brain will start to find the right move first, so that during speedruns, when you do just make a move, because you gotta move fast and just make a move, any move, that move will eventually start to become the right move. Bingo, bango, bongo, there it is. Everything you need to know on how to crush Get Laid Easy. If after listening to me shoot all that information on your chest, you're sitting in your little seat thinking, yeah, I got this. Trust me, baby, you don't got this. It's gonna take study and practice to be a top contender on HuniePop's leaderboards. You can't just listen to what I said and instantly go get top 10. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. Yeah, right. Practicing and studying for a speedrun built on RNG couldn't be me. And I totally understand that. I mean, why bother when RNG can just rear its ugly head around the corner whenever it feels like it? Right? Right? Up to this point, I've neglected to address one major facet of HuniePop's speedrun. The tokens that appear on the grid and the ones that fall down are all random. There's no skill involved to manipulate the RNG, or to get the perfect tokens to fall from the sky. But does this mean that HuniePop speedrun is all luck? I mean, come on. Is there nothing we can do to sway the odds in our favor? I used to think that it was all pure chance. Sure, I thought that there was a little skill involved, but really, I'm just gonna try and match tokens as fast as possible, and then hope that the game favors me. And I thought that all before I was good at the speedrun. But then one day, I saw a clip of chess grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura doing a puzzle rush.
Take the knight, take the queen. Check. Bishop h3 is mate. Queen g2 is good. Let's take and make rook g8, which is mate. Takes, check, and rook f1 is mate.
In this clip, Hikaru's solving these chess puzzles quicker than I can even understand the board. Seeing Hikaru analyze a grid of pieces that all have unique effects and trying to solve a puzzle for the best move as quickly as he can reminded me of something that I do. So if he can take in the board as quickly as he does and find the best move as quickly as he does, can't we do that as HuniePop speedrunners? Sure, chess is a little different, and it's more consistent in terms of its board states, but the principle is the same. With the right approach and skill set, shouldn't we be able to minimize the effects that RNG has on any given run? And the answer to that question is absolutely. In trying to lower my PB and eventually get world record, I improved my overall play immensely. I practiced the right way and developed proper approaches to dates. I've lowered my reaction time and gotten better mouse control. I did everything in my power to make sure that I played the best goddamn HuniePop I could. When I started speedrunning HuniePop, it took me 8 hours to get a sub 10. Now, every run I'll ever do will be sub 10. My average run is sub 9, and my PB is the world record. This isn't luck. This is skill. Now, I have to admit, it did take a lot of attempts to get the world record, but I mean, come on. Any game's world record would take a lot of trial and error, requiring you to reset until you play great enough to get a good run. In my most recent run to get world record, I'll admit, I did get lucky during some parts of the run. But I also played good HuniePop. I made mistakes still though. I won't say I played that run perfectly. However, the luck that I had, combined with the skill that I did show during that run, happened to be enough to beat Blaze Fazlard's previous world record run. But that time can still be lowered. World record for this category can go down further with better play. I did not play my run perfectly. There were some major mistakes that cost me getting a lower time. The point I'm trying to make here is that yes, I got lucky during my run. But that entire run wasn't luck. And a run that has more skill than what I showed during my 821 will beat it. Whether that's me or one of you watching at home. Yes, some runs simply cannot be world record. But no run should take longer than 10 minutes and most runs can be sub 9. It's just a matter of you being good enough to get them, not you waiting for the god run. This is what separates the A-tier HuniePop speedrunners from the F-tiers. Which coincidentally brings me to my next point. The tier. The very last thing to touch on in this guide is how you, the lowly Supra 10 HuniePop speedrunner, can take all the information I've given you and apply it. I personally find that the most difficult part of learning a new skill is understanding where I'm at and what's the most important thing for me to learn next. That's what this section is here to do. This tier system breaks down each tier a HuniePop speedrunner could be, from dog shit to godlike. Within each tier, I'll explain what that tier should already know and what that tier needs to learn. Then, how to learn it. You should be able to take this tier system, place yourself in it with relative ease, and instantly have an idea of what you need to do next and how to do it. So, let's start at the very bottom, Tier F. Tier F players have... Alright, yeah, hold on. Hold on, I gotta check my notes. Man, I really thought I knew this part. Aha! Here it is.
It's blank.
What?
Here, look.
No, I am forbidden to look upon. Blank.
It says right here that Tier F players have never done a speedrun of the game. Tier F players have never even played the game! Now, Tier F players might know a bit about how the game works, or how the speedrun works, but not any real understanding. God, we've got to help these players out! Somebody tell them what they need to do!
Wait a second. That's my job.
Alright, I'll do that. To all the Tier F players out there, you gotta learn HuniePop's basics. If you at home are a Tier F player, and let's be honest with ourselves here, you are. Assuming you have watched this video up to this point, you should have an understanding of the game's basics, but not intimately. The best way to get ready to start speedrunning HuniePop when you've never played HuniePop is to, get this, play HuniePop. Start a new file, play through the game normally, and have some fun. You'll start to get used to how the date grid works and how to manipulate it, not just in theory, but in practice. You can consider yourself a Tier C HuniePop player if you've watched my video up to this point, and once you've played enough HuniePop to sleep with 2 or 3 girls. Tier C players have an understanding of HuniePop's basics and basic mouse control when controlling the date grid. Tier C players must acquire a good understanding of the speedrun's route, simple match recognition, and a sub 10 PB. If you're a Tier C player and are looking to become a Tier B player, you need to memorize the route. There's nothing worse than being on pace to set a new personal best, and then you forget which girl to talk to, and in a panic, click the wrong one, ruining your run. This has happened to me, and trust me, it's not fun. The best way for you to memorize the route is to do runs of the game. During these practice runs, don't focus on playing optimally during your dates. Your main focus should be on doing the route correctly. Play through the game carefully following my route guide, making sure that you get everything right. Even if you're going slowly through the game, it's okay, as long as you're doing the route correctly. Go through the entire run like this, and then do it again. As you do the run over and over again, try and look at the guide less and less until you can do it without looking at all. While doing these slow, focused runs to learn the route, you can also practice the other skill required to be a Tier B runner: simple match recognition. While you're doing the dates for these runs, call out every single match that you see on the grid, especially when you match them. Look at the grid and start to notice these patterns when you match them and what they look like on the grid before you match them. These runs should be slow and methodical. Do not time them. You have to start slow so that you can learn and eventually understand how to speed up. When you feel confident enough in these 2 skills, start timing some runs. When you get a PB below 10 minutes, you can consider yourself a Tier B runner. Tier B. Tier B players have an understanding of HuniePop's basics, basic mouse control when controlling the date grid, good knowledge of the speedrun's route, simple match recognition, and a sub 10 PB. Tier B players need to acquire a good understanding of the optimal approaches to take within each date, increased control over your mouse when moving pieces across the date grid, a good grasp on advanced date grid manipulation, and a sub 9 PB. You could also get your reaction time below 220 ms. This is optional, but it does help. To practice the proper date approaches, start a run and get to the section you need to practice. If you need to practice all of them, just start with the intro date. Re-listen to the intro date approach I presented earlier in the guide and do the intro date exactly the way I say it. Once you complete it, close out of the game before it moves on to the next area. Repeat this process until you've practiced enough to fully understand the intro date. Then move on to date 1. Do this with each date until you fully understand and feel confident with the approaches, strategies, and intricacies involved. Better mouse control and reaction time can both be improved using the methods presented in the mechanics section. Check back there if you need to. To practice advanced date grid manipulation, go to date 4, or even better, a date 8 or something, and set the difficulty to hard mode. While playing this date 4 or date 8 or whatever on hard mode, take the 3 tactics that I taught you in the knowledge section of the run and try to apply them as much as you can. Search for all the unconventional patterns and how you would put them back together. Identify all the possible ways to use move to match, and try to find pieces that could become 4 or 5 ofs through a setup move. Find out in every board state how you can apply all of them. Once you start to see them all around the board and what they can do for you, begin trying to speed yourself up. Do the hard dates over and over again, looking and matching moves using these 3 tactics as fast as you can. Once you're comfortable with that, go back down to a date 3 or 4 on easy mode and try to do these dates faster. While doing them, try and spot these tactics. You'll start to notice them much more often, and sometimes that will matter a lot. When you feel fully practiced on all of these things, go do some runs. When you finally get that sweet sub 9 PB, you better grab your cap and gown because you've graduated to A tier. Tier A players have an understanding of HuniePop's basics, great control over their mouse, a good knowledge and memorization of the speedrun's route, simple match recognition, a good grasp on the advanced date grid manipulation tactics, full understanding of the optimal date approaches, and an optional reaction time below 220 milliseconds. Tier A players need to acquire fluidity. Tier A is the last tier, and there's no new skills you need to learn. At this point, it's just about perfecting your current skills. Do some runs and analyze them. Find out where you are the weakest and practice that. If you suck at date 3, practice date 3 over and over again. If you're bad at finding setups or recognizing unconventional patterns, practice that over and over again. If you suck during the bedroom minigame, practice that over and over again. You get my point. Then, go ahead and do some more runs and repeat this process. Over time, with practice, your fluidity will increase. Everything you do will start to get better. You'll start to see better moves and you'll match them faster. Any tier A player can compete for world record. It's just about putting in that last bit of effort. If you are a tier A player, then congratulations, and good luck on your runs. I hope I've helped. Thank you all for watching my video all the way to the end. I hope that you've learned something, or were at least entertained. If I've inspired you to go speedrun HuniePop, awesome. I would love for there to be more runners in the community. If anyone has any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll reply to as many as I can. If anyone does a run and would like me to analyze it so I can tell you exactly where you are in the tier system, and what you need to practice next, add me on Discord and I'll check it out. I would also like to mention that HuniePop has several other categories besides Get Laid Easy. I haven't played any of them myself, but I'm going to soon. If you like HuniePop but don't like the idea of Get Laid Easy, try out Unlock Venus or All Panties. They seem like pretty good runs. Okay, last thing. I'll leave you with this. Some of you might have noticed the odd title of this video. It's not How to Speedrun HuniePop. It's How to Speedrun HuniePop. That should give you a little clue that I'm gonna make more of these. Most likely, I'll do one on Dishonored, and if I like one of the longer HuniePop categories, I might also do a video on one of those. After making both of those videos, who knows what I'll do next? Celeste? Portal? Minecraft? Bubsy 3D? Gex! 2020's crazy! I'm not exactly so sure. But what I do know is that I'm not going to make a video talking about a game speedrun if I'm not in the top of the leaderboards. So, most likely it's going to take me a decent bit of time before another one of these comes out. But if you liked this video, and you want to see another one in the future, subscribe. I would much appreciate it. Leave a like if you like, and don't forget to hit the bell as well. If on any channel, it should be on this one, that only uploads twice a year. Alright, that's it. See ya.